I'm one of the local guys from the table down here. I'm actually a grad of SFU, School of Business. It's turn of the century or so. And it's interesting as I sit here and reflect, one of the pieces of advice that we received when we were coming out of university, and it was folklore, if not advice that a lot of folks were given over that time, was you need to go and spend a couple years in Toronto to get your experience, and then you can come back to Vancouver, and particularly if you're looking at advertising as a career. And I just want to take a moment and applaud the work that the group here is doing about just debunking that kind of talk and getting it out of the city. I was born just a few blocks up the road in St. Paul's Hospital, and I worked just a few blocks from there, down there on the Hastings corridor, and have for going on 16 years now at what is now known as Expedia CruiseShipCenters. We were acquired. We came out of Vancouver in the late 80s. We too began on Robson Street, believe it or not, upstairs in the back, processing direct mail in an attempt to sell cruises, and really evolved that early work into one of the, if not the, cruise specialty retailer in Canada. We're a franchise model. We offer people the opportunity to come and do business, to bring their entrepreneurial energy to us. And we're very happily doing that business when along came a company that was doing quite well on the internet known as Expedia. Expedia today, as you can see, is a global beast. We are forever growing and innovating and relentlessly trying to bring travel to the people, not only through the internet, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. We certainly, Expedia began on the internet. Some of you may have been around when Encarta was an encyclopedia, I believe, and Expedia was invented as a CD-ROM to come with your computer to help you research and plan travel, and it's evolved to what it is today. Some of you might know that TripAdvisor was a spin-off of Expedia. It began as the hotel review site on Expedia.com and then grew and developed a really incredible life of its own. It has since gone public on its own and is doing its own thing. But today, this is who we are and this is what we're part of. It is truly a matrixed organization focused on supply and technology and really bringing travel to the people. The main corporate headquarters are in Bellevue, Washington, soon to move to Seattle, Washington. But literally, there are offices all around the world. And here in Vancouver is where Expedia CruiseShipCenters is based, and actually the global cruise business is based. So I'll get into a little bit more detail on what we're doing here in Vancouver, but it's not that the Expedia head offices are here in Vancouver, but Expedia CruiseShipCenters head offices are here in Vancouver. And we're on a run to set up and have in production by 2020 500 retail stores across North America out of our corporate headquarters here in Vancouver. So we began in Canada. When Expedia acquired us, they said, did a great job in Canada, now we'd like you to do that in the United States. They looked at all the retail travel models out there and said that they liked ours best from a scalability perspective in the modern day. People don't quite sometimes understand the true differentiation between Expedia CruiseShipCenters and Expedia. Expedia is an online, expediabrands.com, .ca, .com.au and such, selling hotel, flights, and rental cars, and ancillary services. Expedia CruiseShipCenters is more of a high-touch affair. We're selling the complex, expensive travel. So cruise being our bread and butter, but lots of African safaris and more complex tours and travel where people still have questions. They do a lot of research on the internet, but at the end of the day, the very vast majority of folks who buy these products still want to converse with someone. And what we're finding very interesting is that's not just true for the baby boomers and beyond, but in fact, the Gen X, and even some of the Gen Y, and then into the millennials, are valuing experience when it comes to complex, expensive trips that they don't quite feel like they have the confidence to just book online before they clarify things with people. You can see the scale of the business. It's remarkable. $68 billion last year in global sales through the Expedia affiliate brands. The company here, though, again, based in Vancouver, is Expedia CruiseShipCenters. So we were founded here in 1987 by a fellow named Michael Drever. He'd actually bought a franchise from an American-based franchisor called CruiseShipCenters. That franchisor got up and running and then sort of fell apart. And Michael Drever and one other fellow here in Vancouver had the two Canadian-based franchises. They decided to buy the assets of that organization, bring it back here to Vancouver, and grew it right across the country. When Expedia picked us up, we had about 125, 130 stores in Canada. Today, we're fully deployed in Canada, coast to coast, 150 stores. We've opened in the last 2 years, 60 in the United States. And as I say, we did 40 last year, 30 the year before, 20 years before that. And we're going to hit a pace of about 50 and stick with that. That's about one a week. That's about as much as we think we can do in terms of keeping things at the quality we like to keep them as we go. Again, acquired by Expedia. And as I said, they looked at all the retail travel agencies out there. And what they liked about ours and what's unique about it, we are a franchise organization. So people bring their equity, both in sweat and capital, to the value proposition of the business. And then the folks that sell travel for us are not salaried people. They are independent contractors that are looking for a career in travel, often a second career, lots of 50 plus, somewhat winding down, but still feel like they have a second career in them type folks. We call it rewirement versus retirement. And they are passionate about travel and cruise in particular. They want to help people and share the stories of travel that they enjoy and bring it to the people. And it's something that works very well for us. We have 130 corporate staff here in Vancouver working on the Expedia CruiseShipCenters business. We have other staff in our office, some other Expedia affiliates that I'll speak of. Retail travel franchise office, agency. And over 4,300 of these independent contractors working for us now right across North America, and we're growing. We're growing leaps and bounds. And the folks that are working for us, again, they're passionate travelers. It's a culture of our organization. We get together twice a year. Every year we do our national conference where we get together and set the coming year's priorities on a cruise ship. So we'll go experience a destination. We do other meetings all across the United States. I was telling the folks at our table, we did our May meeting on a cruise to Alaska and had our big award celebration for sales in Prince Rupert. And they were blown away with the hospitality that we received up there. It was fantastic. So in addition to Expedia CruiseShipCenters, we are 220 seats down here on Hastings in the, I don't even know what the name of our building is anymore. Oceana Plaza, thank you. We moved across the road. Anyway, we are, so we're, as I said, a matrixed organization. So with Expedia CruiseShipCenters based as the key tenant, we have 2 floors, and we are looking to possibly add more over time as Expedia really views Vancouver globally as an expansion city. So in addition to the Expedia CruiseShipCenters business, we have Expedia Lodging Partner Services, and these are the folks that call on the hotels and cut the deals and create the supply for all those Expedia brands that you saw on the screen prior to that. Expedia has people based in key hotel markets and tourism destinations around the world, cultivating supply, cultivating relationships. Hopefully, if you're in the hotel business and in the room, you know our folks in Vancouver. They're dedicated to developing partnerships with these accommodation providers and creating the supply. So whether it be Hotwire on the short end or Expedia on the long planning window, we're there with the different hotels. So the third group based in Vancouver is Expedia Worldwide Engineering. We are 15 strong in Vancouver. These are the development folks that build the websites and do the engineering. Expedia, and maybe some of you have heard of this thing, as I get more and more experienced with Expedia, I'm blown away at how they work. But we've been developing websites as part of our organization for a long time. Anyone in travel probably has. Expedia's got 7,000 or so developers around the world. And the code is constantly in evolution. It literally follows the sun. So the folks that do a little bit of work in Bellevue, close down for the night, shut down their machines, and people where the sun is rising pick it up. And it literally is constantly evolving as it goes around the world. And they see Vancouver as an expansion hub. With our Expedia CruiseShipCenters business here, they began adding people. And so we've got about 50 seats available right now, plans for more. We've got 15 folks now working on development, but we do development specifically for cruise, but we're also doing work on insurance, and we do it for all the big brands in cruise. So we do Expedia CruiseShipCenters websites, both the consumer-facing websites as well as the B2B equipment or the websites that the travel agents use on the back end to book the business. We're developing for Travelocity's call center, Expedia in the United States call center, and soon to be Orbitz. So it's expanding, it's exciting. Insurance is big business. We've done a lot of work with the insurance team here in Vancouver, but that's essentially what we're doing in Vancouver. As a Vancouver corporate head office, some of the stuff that we've seen is we literally began here, but 2 years ago, we took a very sound look at where to from here. Our lease was up, we were packed to the gunnels in the place, and we needed to decide where we were going to go next. And believe me when I say we looked east, we looked around the Lower Mainland, but we picked right across the street. Our staff spoke loud and clear. They love Vancouver. They love the access to transit that is here. I can tell you that the cost of labor from Expedia's perspective, as they look at San Francisco, Seattle, these The cost of development labor here in Vancouver, in particular when you think about the Canadian dollar, is sound, and it is, growing dramatically, but still less competitive than some of those other markets. We've got talent access, not only local talent, there's spectacular education here as I like to think about the different groups that we have here. But then further, there's access to international talent. Folks can come to Vancouver and work, and they can begin their career in Expedia Vancouver. And then over time, if it's possible, they can move to other parts of the organization around the world. The lifestyle is spectacular. We did a boat cruise, in the summer. We take all our people out on one of these bayshore-based boats and take in the scenery and stuff. And it's a real opportunity for me to sort of hop around and talk to folks. And I made a real point because of all this talk about all these people coming to Vancouver. And I just did my question for that trip was, what brought you to Vancouver? And I was talking to folks that weren't from here. As honestly, most people in our organization are not from Vancouver, like myself. And I was talking to one fellow from Denmark. And he's one of our financial analysts doing a fantastic job. And he said, as someone alluded to earlier today, came to Vancouver as a backpacker when he was younger, fell in love with the city, went home, got an education, and he and his wife packed up and said, we're going to build our life here in Vancouver because they love it. And there's so many of those stories. We were talking to another family. Their family had immigrated from Korea. The father took everyone, he was a Silicon Valley guy, took the family down from Korea to Silicon Valley. They checked it out. The mother said, I'm not going there. I'm not moving my family to that part of the United States. A couple of years later, they came here on vacation. She goes, why didn't you bring me here first? They immediately started their papers, and they now raise their kids here, and their daughter works for us. So there's so many stories of the lifestyle and just the beautiful quality of life that we enjoy here in Vancouver. I can tell you that as a young guy, I moved to Whistler when I was 18, met a lot of international people. I traveled for years before I finally came back and got my education. And my objective was always to get out of Vancouver and live somewhere else. But the further afar I went, the more clear it became to me that Vancouver is a great place. It's a great place to live, to raise your family, and I think to have a corporate headquarters with certainty. This is our corporate headquarters. We just built out. We really looked to the themes. The designers at Expedia are really about celebrating the local auspice of what's going on in the city. They looked at Vancouver and came back with a lot of pictures of coffee and mountains and urban culture. But what we did was the offices overlook the sea where you have all the container ships out front there. So we tried to infuse cruise and the sea and the greens and the blues of Vancouver into our office space. So our main boardroom there in the lower corner, the main door is actually a big cargo door off a container. And the window treatments are to emulate fog rising off the sea. And literally, it's like we swept up the ocean right into our office space. The best parts of the space with the greatest views are the public spaces. There you'll find the lunchroom. There you'll find the coffee points. We wanted to make sure that everybody that comes to work in Vancouver can share in the really fantastic views when the sun's out like today. So thanks. That's Expedia Vancouver, and I look forward to spending on the time.